My name is Shane Kenneth Kelly, and I have AIDS, and I've been HIV positive for 38 years now. Okay. I'm originally from Taranaki in Stratford, and I moved to Wellington when I was 21. Okay. And it was that first year that I contracted HIV, 1980. Back then, it was a secret of life, I suppose you could say. It was frowned upon by everybody, and something that you didn't share with anyone. So it was a very subversive lifestyle. When it first became to be discussed about HIV, well, back then it was called GRID, gay-related immune deficiency, and you'd hear it on television. You wouldn't hear it directly. It was something you saw on TV, people wearing masks in courts, things like that. And when it was first discussed about some of the symptoms, I recognised them. So I went immediately to my doctor and said, you know, I'm getting these night sweats that everyone's talking about. And he said to me, don't be such a drama queen. Just get out of the office. He wasn't interested. But I went back the following year and said, look, this is definitely something happening. I've never had this before in my life, and here I am suddenly wet through in bed like somebody's thrown a bucket of water on me. And he just said, look, you're just being stupid. It's not happening in New Zealand. Just forget about it and leave. But I went back the third time in about 83, 84, and I insisted, and a test had just become available. It wasn't immediate like it is today. You'd get 10 minutes and you're told. Back then it was a 2-week wait, and it was 2 weeks of angst and hell, really, waiting for it. But the day came, he said, come into the office, and I went in. Have a seat, he says. So I have a seat. He says, well, you are positive. And then he stood up. And so I stood up, and he said, don't forget to pay Marie on the way out. So I left the office in a bit of a haze, really. And I went home and sat down for a little while, and then I thought, oh, I better ring my boyfriend. So I rang my boyfriend, and I said to him, look, you're going to have to come home because I need to talk to you seriously about something. And he said, I think I know what it is. I said, yeah, it is. He said, I don't ever want to see you again, and hung the phone up on me. And so that was the beginning of 10 years of sorting it out on your own. And I didn't handle it very well at all. There was a lot of self-pity, a lot of demanding pity of others, a lot of sorrow, a lot of crying. It was a difficult time. There were no support services. If there were, I wasn't aware of them. Yes, yeah, the day that I learned. And I rapidly discovered that people weren't interested. It was fear-invoking. It made people run away. Don't want to know you, don't want to be near you. Perhaps I can get it from touching you. Just total avoidance. I convinced myself that it was the end, and that maybe I should do some things that others had done, like go and see the world, get out and visit Disneyland. But I rapidly discovered that you weren't allowed into America at all at that time without a waiver. So that was a difficult process to go through. So that never eventuated, to be honest. Dealing with it myself was coming to terms with my death more than anything. Back then it was talking about death and dying rather than long-term survival. By the 10th year I'd come to terms with things. I'd been to 20 funerals. I saw how things went and where they were headed. I'd had tuberculosis and a couple of pneumonias myself, and thought that was the end of things. I had tuberculosis and I was in hospital, and I was lying there one day and I thought, oh, that's interesting, I haven't breathed for a while. And then things got a bit dark. I thought, oh, this is it. But then my body took a deep breath on its own, just gasped on its own, and things continued. And then one day, a couple of weeks later, the nurse came in and said, well, Shane, you can probably go home. And I nearly slapped her, because at that stage, I'd given away a lot of my money, given away all my goods, thought it was the end. So I ended up having to start again, get another job, and start earning money and get all the things that I'd left behind back. So that was a struggle back up. Rather than saying goodbye, I suddenly had to say, I'm still here. No, there were none that went well. They were all negative and bad news. The job I got after I got out of hospital after tuberculosis, I said to the boss that I was HIV positive, and that was kind of positive. It was like, well, you've still got your job if that's what you're worried about. But it was never discussed after that, and I'm pretty sure he didn't tell anybody of the staff members, and I certainly didn't disclose it. So I learned to keep it to myself because people behave differently. It probably affected promotions. I would say there was no advancement in the job I was in, even though the opportunities were there. I was passed over. So that definitely was an effect. They didn't handle it very well at all. I didn't tell them for a long time. But the response was more positive than I expected. But once again, it was one of these things like, yeah, okay, I've told you, okay, we've heard you, let's not ever talk about this again. It was a non-topic. I don't think they knew how to handle it any more than the doctor did when he disclosed to me. The medications. Suddenly there were medications coming on stream that had positive outcomes, and there was something to look forward to, and a life available again. It was all about death earlier, and now it's about living and surviving.